Happy Thursday, everyone, and welcome to today's Fireside Chat. We're going to talk about some real issues that are impacting our generation, our communities, our homes, and that is the topic of incarceration and our young people. And today we have a incredible, phenomenal speaker, organizer, Dieter Cantu, who will be talking to us about his experience currently located in Houston, Texas. He'll be sharing with us some lessons learned, some new models, as well as digging deeper into what's going on with our young people. So, Dieter, so thank you so much for being with me today, for joining me, and for sharing this space.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a treat to be here.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna read your bio, and then we're gonna jump into some questions and have a great conversation.
Okay.
Dieter Cantu is a seasoned community organizer, activist, and social entrepreneur with a deep commitment to reforming systems that perpetuate inequality, drawing from his personal experiences as a youth within the juvenile and child welfare systems, where he encountered stark disparities. Dieter employs a strategic and multidisciplinary approach to drive transformative change. Dieter's remarkable impact has earned him recognition, including the honor of having his own day designated in San Antonio, Texas on February 13th, 2018, and in Houston, Texas on October 23rd. He has received prestigious awards such as the Reebok Human Rights Award, a seat on the Reebok Board of Directors, and acknowledgement as Forbes Coach, Houston Business Journal 40 Under 40 Award, the American Express Leadership Academy Fellow, an NAACP Millennial Game Changer Award recipient, and Just Leadership USA Fellow. Dieter's multifaceted experience extends to expertise in cross sector collaboration, trauma informed care, and the application of evidence based practices, enhancing his ability to catalyst positive societal change. That's incredible, Dieter. I'm reading through your bio, listening to a lot of your work. It sounds like it stemmed from your own lived experiences. I was wondering if you can share with us what did that look like and what led you into the work that you're doing today.
Yeah. So, what led me into the work that I do now over the years, I was directly impacted by the child welfare and juvenile justice system. And so, being incarcerated, I was unjustly sentenced. And so, my first arrest, I received 10 years for a pack of cigarettes and a cell phone that another individual took from somebody else. And so, the only reason why I essentially served so much time is because I was a youth, I was a juvenile. And so I signed a plea bargain owning what happened because I didn't want to go to the adult system where they offered me 25 to 40.
Wow.
I signed a plea bargain for 10 years and I went to a youth center. The individual who committed the crime, well, all three of the adults that I was with, nobody went to jail or had to serve time. And
Wow.
so that is what kind of thrust me into doing this line of work. I did about half a year. I did 4 years off a 10-year sentence with the rest on parole. But within those 4 years, I did about 4 months in solitary confinement. And
Wow.
that's where, I just had I guess, coming to God moment where, I wanted to really change my circumstance. So,
Wow. That's so powerful. I'm listening to you, and when I look at you, I see my brothers. I have four of them. My own father, who were all incarcerated,
mm,
um, and dealt with a cycle of incarceration for years. One who was incarcerated for a very extended period of time, very similar to yours, who did not commit the crime. And
mm,
I don't know what that's like, but to have brothers that have gone through that um, is disheartening,
mhm,
knowing that it
absolutely.
happens to so many other men, Black men especially out there. What were some of the I guess the cycles, or just what did you deal with when being in solitary confinement? I don't want to imagine what that's like, but if you can just shed light, because I think a lot of these things are under they're swept under the rug, as if we don't know that they happen. I think it's important to raise awareness about these issues, about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I dealt with worst of the worst. I was in a very country area where the staff, the correctional officers, like their best job is working at the jail, right?
Mm,
Um, and so it was a lot of racism, of course. I mean, solitary in particular. I mean, they drop the temperature on you. They make it real cold.
wow.
You're only in your boxers the whole time, and
Mm,
so the light never goes. There's like a little light. It never goes off. You wake up
mm,
very early. They take your mat, so you have to kind of just sit on this concrete slab, for the whole day. Um, and then yeah, they drop the temperature. There's like a food tray that they
mm,
give you. They deliver your meals, and kind of when you reach for it, they throw it on the ground, and you either pick up what's remaining and eat that from the part that didn't hit the floor, or you don't eat. Yeah, it was. They talk to you crazy. You hear a lot of things in other cells. You can't really see out, but you hear people harming themselves or wanting to harm themselves. Um, it was it's a pretty bad experience, and the light is on. I think what messed me up the most was like there was a light on 24 hours, day, night, whatever. They would dim the light, but the light would remain on because they have to make sure for suicide watch, right? They would, didn't have to use flashlights or things of that nature. And so to make sure you're not going to harm yourself, that light stayed on. And so it was, uh, it was difficult. So
wow. Um, Thank you for sharing that, for being vulnerable with us, and just giving us that raw information. My brother, as I mentioned, one of them, he's actually incarcerated now. He comes out, I believe, at the end of this year. Every year there's a new date. I don't know what's up with that, but every
mm,
year they're giving a new date of when he's going to come out, and also went through the solitary confinement as well. I think it's inhuman and
yeah.
animalistic. It has to stop and change. What have you been doing since then? You've come out, you've been able to come out from the other side. Now you're doing all this incredible work, transforming lives, changing systems. What does your work look like since then?
Well, when I was released, I did a lot of free work. So I had 6 years on parole. And so my conditions of parole were to either maintain employment or to enroll in, some kind of education, form of education. And
Mhm.
so I was able to enroll in college. I was released in February. By June, I was enrolled in college.
That's
And,
incredible.
I had a few jobs here and there, but I just knew that even if I took one class, I would be okay as far as my parole. And
Yeah.
so I did that. I did a lot of free work. I just did a lot of community. I didn't know community organizer was like a terminology. I didn't know, nonprofit. I didn't know those things. I just knew I wanted to help people. And
Mhm.
so I would say from '09 to 2015, probably 2017, I did like free work, had odd end jobs here and there. But my name within the community is what landed me jobs, not because I had, a master's degree or anything else. And I started learning the skills just from being in the community. I don't really like saying in the field. I don't really like that term, but like being in the community or on the ground.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I would say it can be discouraging for a lot of people where you have to make ends meet, but you don't know how, and you know what your calling is, and you don't know how to find that outlet to express it. Um, a lot of people quit. A lot of people go back. It's not because they
Mm,
don't want to do better, but there's no how. There's no blueprint to say this is how you can be released from incarceration and this, that, and the third. And so
yeah.
yeah, I went to college, got my associates, got my bachelor's, got my master's, and then I just got into the career field from there, where I probably went from 32,000 to the 100,000 salary in
It's incredible.
9 months. But because I've done the work,
Oh,
and so yeah.
that's just outstanding. I mean, like, I'm hearing Netflix documentary. I don't know about you, but
I don't like attention like that.
you've been doing. I mean, it's incredible. I'm so intrigued by your story, your journey, your lived experience, just everything. I think it's something absolutely powerful to defy the odds, to go through what you went through, to get your education, and then to come back. That's a force to be reckoned with. I believe in my world. I think a lot what you said. People get where they are based on education, but when
Hmm.
you combine that with this is lived experience, I know what it's like. I've walked this. I think those are the architects we need to create new systems and new methodologies.
Absolutely.
Um, you talked about community a number of times, and I was wondering if you can talk to what does community mean to you, and what is the power of community?
Man, community is culture. I think community isn't just, who are my allies, right? Or who are my partners in this work. That's my community. I think community is sharing beliefs. I think it's sharing culture, everything from fashion to taste of music, right? I think my community are those who are aligned with you for that same North Star, who your village is, I guess, is your community.
Yeah.
Um, Community to me is everybody from, I teach in prison is individuals who are currently incarcerated that have served 20 years, got 20 more years to go. That's my community. I think my community is my elders for people who have, you know, provided me with sound counsel and wisdom, um, men and women, right? Latino, African American, anything from the African diaspora. I think I have a big community. I'll just put it like that. It's not really just, I think we kind of get held up on like political parties and, um, other nonprofits, stuff
Mhm.
like that. But my community is pretty big and it's nationwide. So,
It's incredible. I want to move on a little and talk about. I have a few other things I want to address, uh, but one of them is around the comment that you made before we actually came on live, and we talked. You talked about getting the real work done and not being. Not hiding behind the camera or social
mhm.
media, but really getting into the work and getting the work done. And I was hoping you can talk a little bit about what you're seeing around people that are just putting up social media posts, but are not getting the work done. And then how do we just get it done? What does that look like, in your opinion?
Right. No, absolutely. And I think social media activism, or I think it is necessary work. I just think it's the beginning of a very long process, right? It's creating awareness. It's a form of creating awareness on whatever that issue is that you're concerned about. But once you're aware, what's the next step? Now if
Mhm.
we're virtually mobilizing people, or if we're fundraising, or if we're, yeah, that's doable, but I do understand it because it's safe, right? It's not
Mhm.
like police
That's
accountability, let's go
right.
all lock arms and get pepper sprayed, you know what I mean, and like
Right.
let's all get bonded out. It's not that type of danger, right? But there's a lot of false information on
Mm.
social media as well. Just because it comes from Google or a flyer on Instagram
Mhm.
doesn't mean we need to reshare it 1,000 times, because that doesn't mean it's accurate information, right? And so we have to really have that discernment and know how to decipher um, propaganda, clickbait, things that is going to get the engagement and move to the top of,
Mhm.
social media algorithms, and why that's structured like that,
Mhm.
because it's what we call trauma porn, right? It's
Right.
triggering. And you can
Right.
say, I wake up, before I even pray, I'm gonna pick my phone up,
Mhm.
right? And right
Mhm.
when I pick my phone up, the first thing I see, now I'm agitated. Now I'm this. Now I'm that. But if we're
Mhm.
walking around agitated, aggravated, anything else with an A in front of it, what are you gonna do about it? Or do you wake up every day feeling mad? That's by design. And
Wow.
so there's plenty ways to get involved. You could do community workshops, you can petition, you can get on the agenda for city hall through your county. There's pass a bill, legislative work,
Mhm.
testify at the Capitol. There's grant writing. There's
So
just a bunch of ways. So
this is so good, Dieter, and it's spinning my brain in so many ways. But you also talked about in our conversation that there are some new methodologies and new systems that need to be designed. I think you refer to yourself as an abolitionist, so not just as an activist, but abolishing practices as in policies that have been and restructuring and re-engineering new ones. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that thought around systems are working the way they're designed to, and
mhm.
then how we abolish them and create new ones.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you really just think about a human being being in a, or not even a human being, right? You can say anything in a cage looks sad. It can be. There's not too many things that you put in a cage that doesn't look sad, or you don't have some kind of emotional connection. Like, damn, why is it in a cage? And so for a child, I mean, I just don't see how rehabilitation is confinement. I don't understand the
Yeah.
idea. I mean, I do understand why it was designed, but I don't understand the concept of how that is conductive or produces somebody to reintegrate back into society because they've spent time behind a cell, or in a cell. I don't understand that. And so we do need systems in place, pre and post incarceration, right? If somebody is currently incarcerated, how are we actively engaging them and creating a plan so
Mhm.
that once they are released, we could connect them to resources, right? I think one of the most clickbait words right now is mentor. I think
Mhm.
one of the most thrown around words is credible messenger, right? It's
Mhm.
what does that even mean? You know what I mean? To be a
Mhm.
mentor in real time, what does that mean? Right. And so, what resources are we connecting youth and young adults to, but helping them work their plan that they've created, during their moment of, being in a carceral setting? Um, because if it's housing, if it's employment, if it's mental health, if it's behavioral health, right? If it's whatever it is, if you're returning to that same environment, it's hard to maneuver through that. And even if you're moved in a different environment, how do you adjust to that, right? Because it's renaturalizing somebody. A lot of people say it's like re-entry. Re-entry sounds like I'm opening the door and I'm closing, like we're re-entering. It's not that simple,
Right.
right? You've been taken away from your community and you
Mm.
have to come back to that. And a lot of things have changed, it's either a lot of things have changed or nothing's changed at all. Either
Yeah.
way, it's how do you navigate that? And so we need to have new systems in place within the community,
Mhm.
and that's everything from where you worship, that's everything from religious leaders, that's everything from where you go to school, get your education, anywhere a kid has to go on a day-to-day basis, to your household, right, to your park. What does that look like? And how are we supporting people? If not, we're doing individuals a disservice when we say we're sending you to jail for a second chance, quote unquote, as a child, right? Because it's like you're not going to the adult system, we're going to send you to juvenile. It's your second chance to get it right. Well, if that's the case, what's in place for them?
Mm.
If this is really rehabilitation. If not, we just say anything, so
It's not. It's almost like an illusion of a second chance, but it really isn't one. I wonder. I had this conversation with a friend earlier. We talked about the the uniqueness, but also the similarities between the child welfare system and juvenile justice system, and how there is an overwhelming number of Black kids in both systems.
mm.
Um, we're wondering if you can speak to that as well, and this thought of the system is designed the way it's supposed to, And then for those that are working in any of these systems, what are some things that you want them to be aware of?
I mean, the system disparities. I mean, if you look at almost any system, they're not really designed to support us. I would even say like the jail system. You could say housing, right, or finding equitable housing in your Section 8 voucher holder or whatever it is, right? How do you find high opportunity zones? How can you find um, whatever curriculum and culturally competent, curriculum in an educational setting, right? Where we're learning about Christopher Columbus and other people that
Mhm.
don't look like us. And I don't feel empowered when I read that type of stuff,
Mm-mm.
right? So, I mean, the statistics and the data is across the board. All the systems are pretty much broken when it
Mhm.
comes to supporting us. But what do I think? I guess what correctional officers and judges, what they can do better.
Mhm. Even
Um,
social workers, those that work in these systems, we tend to get a number of social workers that view our content too. So I always want to ensure that they are aware of these things, but also what could they do better and differently.
I mean, they can humanize experiences.
Mhm.
I think I would assume you pursue or an individual pursues one of these type of roles because they have a passion for people or they have a passion for interacting with people, if not a passion for helping people. And
Sure.
so I guess advice I would give them is, if you don't like your job, quit. Like if you like, we're not here to like coddle you or like
Right.
teach you. Like, how do we teach somebody how to be a good person, right? It's not like theory and practice are two different things. Like this isn't like a textbook type of, if you are working in a prison or if you're working as a probation officer, if your go-to is to like violate somebody or harm somebody or to send somebody to solitary, it's like, why are you here?
Mhm.
But that's like, suppressed trauma that they've had experience with people from different races. So
Mhm.
now they pursue a career where they can have that authority, right?
Mhm.
Where they can have a gun and a badge and say, hey, all these emotions I've suppressed over the years, I could take it out on you because now I'm in charge. And so it's not because, you spend all those years in college because you want to help people. It's because you have this ingrained sickness within you where you're hurt and you feel
Mhm.
small and you feel like you have to lash out and it comes
Mhm.
out through your work, right? I mean, it's everything. I mean, gang injunctions, curfews, everything, right? It comes from slave codes. It comes from things that have been passed down through their DNA
Mhm.
to say that, we're the superior race and now I'm your superior because I have a
Mhm.
badge. And so it's ingrained within them. It comes from fear. It
Mhm.
comes from, historically being part of a lineage of um, not so nice people, right?
Mhm.
And so I don't really have advice for people like that. It really just do the right thing or we'll sue you.
We'll
Like
see. That's the
that's just
advice right there. We'll sue you. But Dita, what's really interesting, I talk to my sisters, and I have 10 sisters and brothers, and I'm one that I hate injustice since I can remember, maybe since I was 2 years old. So for just fun, I talk about social justice and justice, and we debate things about racism and systemic racism, etc. And one of the things that I've always spoken about and have been very adamant about is we tend to focus on the slave experience and what happened to African Americans and the intergenerational trauma that's been passed on uh,
Mm,
through African Americans, but we don't focus on the defective personality disorders that have been passed down through
mm,
white supremacists who have
mm,
whose ancestors have been slave owners,
right.
slave masters, and we never focus on there has to be something really psychologically wrong
Mm,
to harm another human in that way who's innocent,
right.
to hang a human, to torture them. There's a psychological defect,
Yeah,
right? And disorder in my profession and mental health. And we don't focus in on that. So I really appreciate you naming that and saying that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have a few minutes left. We're coming to a close, but As we're closing out, I'm hoping that you can share those that work with young people and those, whether parents or youth workers, youth pastors, social workers, etc. If you can just shed some insight, give us some insight into what are you seeing that's going on with our youth that are getting involved in criminal activity, and then how can we best support them, especially as we're going into the summer months.
I mean, to best support youth or young adults, you have to really have a lifetime commitment, and I can't emphasize that enough. I have mentees that were I met them probably when they were 22, and now they're 28. I've have mentees that were 16, and now they're in their early 20s. I have individuals that I was incarcerated with, and I have a consultancy firm, and they are still figuring it out. And they're a little bit older than me. You know, you just really have to be hands on, and if you commit to something, see it all the way through. It's a very emotional line of work, and it's a you don't really get in return what you put in, right? It's not like a monetary type of career.
Mhm.
Even though you can monetize, right? You can sustain, but as far as helping people, I guess that component, you know, it's a lot emotionally, and you just have to see it through. Again, I don't think it's a cookie cutter approach as far as like creating solutions,
Mhm.
or everybody's problems aren't the same.
Yeah.
But I would just say, if you make that first interaction with a youth, don't let them down. Like, don't have your speaking engagement and then you leave and they never see you. Like, that's a feel good moment for you. That's not for
Mhm.
whoever you're talking to, right? That's for you. You got us paid or whatever. Like, but if you really want to help, you really got to see it through, however long that is, until completion. And completion may be them having a different situation, or they've developed in their grades, or they haven't been back to jail, whatever completion is. You have to see it all the way through, and
Mhm.
it can be a lot. But I mean, that's what I see a lot, is when people say I'm a mentor, or they say I do youth work, and it just kind of starts and stop in the classroom, or starts and stop in that jail, or at that speaking engagement. And
Mhm.
outside of that, they're not connected with the population they serve. And so that's the only advice I really have, is just to be serious about it. And if not, you're doing people a disservice. So
That's so good, Dieter. And I just to close us out here, and then love to share your information. How could people book you, reach you, get in touch with you? Um, you talked about mentorship and mentoring until most of our interventions have expiration dates on it, and
mhm.
typically it's about a year, and then we just and then they're all to their to their own devices, and there's nothing for them past that. But we have to be able to have a lifetime commitment. It sounds like it's doing life with our kids. It's not just mentorship is doing life.
Right.
uh, it's being what they need and not disappointing them. And then this one I really love. It's no cookie cutter approach.
Mhm.
So that means we have to be willing to pivot, to
Right.
change our strategies, to think outside of the box when working with our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And mentorship isn't just sharing my experiences and say, don't, no, no, no.
Mhm.
That's not mentorship. It's more than sound advice. What are the skills? What are the trades? What are the learning experiences? What is the wisdom, the application of knowledge? How do we give that to a youth and a young adult? And maybe you don't have the answers if somebody asks you a question, but it's your due diligence to, find that information for them, but I think a lot of time we say I'm a mentor because I've been to jail too. This is what you shouldn't do because this is what's waiting on you. That's probably 20% of mentorship. That's a component, but that's not everything that a mentor needs to do. So
It's the real work that you've been talking about. It's the
yeah,
real
it's work. Yeah,
work.
it's
Yeah,
work.
this is so good. Dieter, it's been an honor and a privilege having you on today. I really enjoyed just hearing from you, learning from you. I'm grateful for your space that you have taken in our world, so that we can move forward and abolishing systems that don't serve us, that are archaic, that have been designed to destroy and diminish, and that we can create better systems for our generation. So thank you so much. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, how can people reach you, or if they are interested in booking you?
Yeah, my name is everything the same across LinkedIn, social medias, online portfolio. My PO box is on there. My contact is on there, and so trainings, workshops, advice, whatever it is, just I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. So.
Awesome. Reach out to Dieter there. His contact information is on the screen. He's at Dieter_Cantu on all platforms, and his website is www.dietercantu.com. Thank you so much, Dieter. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening, for tuning in. We appreciate you for just being with us, sharing this time with us. Do us a favor and amplify this message. Share it out to your colleagues, to your friends, to your parents. Help us get the word out about this work. It's important. We're going into our summer months. We know that criminal activity amongst our young people tend to rise, not because they're not making mistakes, but because they need guidance and support. So we need you to help us amplify this message. Visit us on our website at www.iraceinc.org for all updates about our programs and services. If you're interested in learning more about our summer programs, please reach out to us at info@iraceinc.org. Thank you all so much again.